Ready?
No.
All right. Welcome back to the Blue Ox Running Podcast. It is number 12 that we are on. Today we're going to talk a little bit about post-marathon season. I know there's a lot of events going on in the summer, but we just got done with Grandma's marathon weekend. We had a lot of store staff and a lot of friends and family kind of up there for that weekend. And we also are yet to talk about the Eau Claire Marathon, which happened in May. So we are full-blown in summer mode. We just got done with a sale here at Blue Ox Running. But before we do all of that and get to our guest, which is, surprise, the next Alex, the second Alex of the store. Last time we interviewed Alex Wrongstead. Today we're going to get to Alex Wendler. She is also a manager here. I know it's confusing. We have multiple people floating around named Alex. You're going to get to know about them throughout the podcast here and if you come in store. But before we do that, Alicia, you know the drill. What is your one word that describes how you're doing lately, moving and grooving throughout the Chippewa Valley? I don't know why I laughed. That was kind of cheesy.
Let's do build.
Build. Is that for running life or your life, or both?
Oh, we can do both.
Both. All right. So we're going to get to the podcast intro music, and then we'll learn about how Alicia is building. The word was build. How you build.
I practiced, if you build it, they will come.
So what's your spring running goal?
Qualify for the Boston Marathon.
Claim the beer mile title.
Training for a triathlon.
20 minutes again under a 5K.
To run happy.
Balance, running and family.
Finish Grandma's marathon.
To not die.
Fast.
Or slow.
Let's go! Fast or slow? Let's go! Fast or slow? Let's go!
All right, that was the intro music, and we're back with Alicia's word of the day, which is build. Tell me a little more about that. It is June. What does build mean for you right now?
Building the miles. Not doing many workouts. It's been hot.
What do you mean by workout? Isn't working out just getting a sweat on?
Yes.
We get this question a lot when we talk about workouts. What's a workout to you? Or how you just use the word?
Yes, like speed,
Gotcha.
Hills.
Quality.
Yes, so I'm just running miles right now.
Slower.
Yeah, and I want to encourage everyone out there, like, man, it hasn't been hot and it got hot
Yes.
just for a few days, but my heart rate is like up so much in the heat. And so I intentionally really slow down my pace for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, like this time of year. Well, I feel like this year has not been normal. And I know the Midwest, we say it every single year. The Midwest has, unpredictable weather. We get all four seasons for sure. But this year has seemed quite different in how delayed summer was and how, but also how cold it was. Like for the Eau Claire Marathon weekend, it was rainy and damp. And then usually it kind of warms up, and it just didn't for a long time. And then all of a sudden you get thrown into, 80, 85, 90 degree days. It was 97 the other day. I think I was putting up stuff in our screen room, and it was like 94 degrees and the sun was totally down. It was like 9:30 p.m. So we're getting those kind of days. We're getting everything in between. It is definitely summer running. We see a lot of people getting more hydration stuff in the store, figuring out electrolytes and stuff. But so when you say build, slower base mileage for what? What do you guys do, or what are you doing in the fall? You training for anything?
Yeah, I think I'm building for a fall marathon. And I'm usually really minimal with running too. And on these hot days, I actually have been carrying water.
Yeah.
Too.
Yep. That's when I know it's getting hot out, when Alicia actually carries water.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since we did the podcast. Full disclosure, we actually recorded one and some technical difficulty happened, but I'm glad that we're actually going to re-record this episode because it's after Grandma's Marathon weekend, which just happened. Our guest, which is going to be on in a second here, was part of that weekend. She ran the full marathon. We want to hear about that, not just the event, but how she did. And we haven't even talked about Eau Claire Marathon. Like it's been a little too long since we had our last episode. So do you remember back to early May, kind of how Eau Claire Marathon went? I do in some ways, but it was quite the different year for us personally. Neither one of us entered the race on Saturday or Sunday, but our kids did something Saturday, and we just kind of crewed and observed and cheered that weekend. What stuck out to you as like your favorite part?
It was just so fun cheering for all the people that we know in the community or don't even know. It was really awesome to have Team Triumph again because they weren't in the virtual one, correct?
I mean, there was a year of virtual, and then last year's marathon was in the fall, and there were some course changes. So now it was back in spring, and it felt like the mass start happened again, obviously. The new start line, the new finish line in the spring, it kind of felt like we were back,
Yes,
So
yep.
all the pre-race expo activities were on like full display. I remember kind of volunteering and setting up the start line and getting all those like pre-race jitter vibes, watching everyone kind of get ready in their warm-ups. It was drizzling, it was cold, and kind of heading over to the tent where Matt Evans leads the marathon course here at the university. And I wasn't even running, right? So I've run the Eau Claire Marathon the last three years, I think, that they've had it on. And but I kind of got those same vibes, like, oh, it's race day. Like I was getting nervous. I was almost getting teary-eyed, like seeing people experience their first marathon or their first half marathon, the first time they go a longer distance. And because I've been there, and it's just something you can't duplicate. You can't replicate kind of adventuring into something different and new. And honestly, the weather, everyone talks about the weather and it was chilly and it was rainy, but like it was perfect running weather. If you were out there a long time, you might have got your shoes a little too wet and kind of soggy socks, but a little drizzle and mist is perfect. It was kind of annoying for spectators and a little chilly, but that's perfect. If it's a little annoying and chilly for spectators, it's perfect for the runners.
And I do think people still showed up. Like there were spectators out, even though it was a little chillier.
Yeah. And it was just kind of that good nervous energy over by the farmers market as we got going with the new start line. I mean, one thing that sticks out to me is we were down here on Barstow by the end of the race, and you could just see for so long, like that long stretch down Barstow before they get here and then afterwards. And they have 3 miles to go. And that's a point where I think I saw someone that was in the marathon class, like kind of run walking, to get through the last few miles. He looked like he was just really struggling at that point. And I saw him the next couple of days in the store. And I kind of like was a little tentative to ask him how it went because I figured he was just really in the pain cave. That's the way it kind of looked. And I was like, how did it end up? What were your thoughts on the day? And he was like, oh, it was amazing. Like, you just never know. Like, observing and spectating, you kind of never, you don't really know how that person's day is going just by seeing him on that little point in the course. He probably had a low point, but overall, he was like super jacked up and super pumped. So it was a good reminder that spectating is very life-giving. We were out giving high fives, giving people soup, giving people cookies as they finished the race and stuff. And it's just another way that the running community kind of like feeds off one another, not just by running. Mm-hmm. Any low points in your training as you're kind of building up? I know sometimes a super long build gets a little stale for me sometimes. Like, what are you doing to mix things up as the summer dog days get here?
Well, I think summer, it's just like inconsistent with kids' schedules and travel. And so I think we've talked about this in a previous episode, but like if I miss 2 days in a row on vacation, or I just try to roll with it instead of being really rigid with my training. We were just at a cabin. I think I ran once there, and even coming back, it's like the kids wanted to run. And so I did 2.5 miles with Leo. And, if that's all I get in for the day, I just try to roll with that and know like my quality is their quality, and if shorter days have to be a couple shorter miles, that's okay.
Yeah, kind of like picking and choosing those 2 or maybe 3 days throughout the week that you're gonna have bigger miles or bigger minutes.
Mainly my long run and mainly the actual workout that we talked about, which I haven't been doing those now. So right now I'm like, if I get my long run in, that's a win.
Yeah, I've only been able to run 2. I started out with 2 minutes at a time because I've been injured quite a bit. So I was allowed to run 2 minutes and then walk 1 minute. And then I could repeat that about 5 times. So I have to do all the stretching and band work and rehab stuff. And then by the time I drive to the trails, because I'm not able, and it hurts more to run on pavement, I drive to the trails to run there. And then I drive back. It's like this hour-long thing, and I look back and I go, I got 10 minutes of running in. And so at first I was like, man, this is a long road, and Then 2 minutes turned into 7 minutes. I could do 7 minutes on, 3 minutes off. And now I'm up to 35 minutes without stopping. I do a little bit of walking and warm up before and after. But all that to say, running 3 days a week for me is like super life-giving right now. I know it's not my normal. Normally in summer right now, I'm trying to run 6 to 7 miles a day, 10 to 15 miles a day, or 6 to 7 times a week. And this has been a really strange season for me, especially when we go to a cabin or something and you've got these normal touch points in your summer where you would run on vacation a lot more or something. But I've been able to bike and swim, and I'm just enjoying the process. I'm going to share more about that later for all of you struggling with injuries. But before we continue, let's bring in our guest, talk about grandmas, talk about Blue Ox, and our new office manager and floor manager, Alex Wendler, will be on the podcast. All right, we are back with our guest. Our guest is another Alex. You've seen her in the store before. She's actually been part of the Blue Ox crew for a long while, but we have never had her on the podcast as we rebooted the podcast this year. Welcome, Alex Wendler, to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yay. We hear you all out there as you do your long run and listen to a podcast clapping. All right, Alex, welcome to the podcast. You've been part of Blue Ox for a while, but tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you started running, not necessarily here in Eau Claire, unless you've been in Eau Claire your whole life. How did you even start to want to run before you got to Blue Ox running?
Yes, I have been in Eau Claire my whole life, but I was the kid who hated the mile run. Like, I definitely remember the 5th grade and being like, 5 laps around the school. That's too many laps. So running was like not in my DNA. In middle school, I think we had a program where if you ran 15 miles total in 1 month, you got a t-shirt. I did that because I love me a free t-shirt.
Free stuff.
Yes.
That's how people run.
But like seriously, didn't start running until like college. My sister invited me to run a half marathon with her in Disney World, and I was like, heck yeah, I'll go to Disney World and run a half marathon. And it was during that training that I got to a point of, oh my goodness, like I actually enjoy this. I mean, it was a long, like strenuous process of getting there, and it looked probably more like walking than running most of the time. And I like gradually increased a half mile at a time just at my own pace. But man, it was so awesome when I reached a point of like looking back and saying to myself, I have never run this far before, and I never thought I would be able to. And I just kind of fell in love with that.
So like, go ahead.
Did you run it with your sister, or did you guys break off, or?
We ran the whole race together.
Okay,
yep.
That's cool.
So did you do any sports in high school? It sounds like this was all college.
Yeah. In high school, I never did. No. I'm like thinking. No, I was a choir nerd. I did show choir. That's not a sport.
Yes. Remember we had Mike Blazel on the podcast, and he was all about that French horn before he got running.
Well, and Alex attends the same church we go to, and she sings for our church too. So she's a very good singer.
Yes, absolutely.
Side note.
So, how much, if you had to remember back, it's hard to do this sometimes when you're in like a different phase of life or a different phase of training. You talked about building slow and then getting to a point where you actually enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't come right away. Like if you had to put a number of months or a number of years on that, how long did it take where you were like, oh, this is something in my day I kind of can do rather than it's an uphill climb?
Yeah, I would say I started training probably a year out, and my actual training plan probably didn't start until 3 months before the marathon. And it was at like my 8-mile long run during that plan that I was like, that was awesome, you know? And so it was a good probably 9 months before I really thought to myself, I think I am a runner.
Yes.
Granted, like I probably could have given myself that label earlier on, but it was when I really recognized like I'm enjoying this, like I am doing well, I am growing, and that's an awesome thing.
I think for people out there new to running, I always say give it at least 6 months, which is a long time. Like people will run for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it hurts and it sucks every day, which is normal. Like, it takes me even having so much history with running a while for it to feel well, even when I'm building back up.
It's such a good thing to be able to try a new thing and be uncomfortable and kind of bad at it at first, you know?
Yeah.
And we're like, everyone is bad at something that they're doing new, you know? And it's been a while since that's been running for me because we've just been kind of doing it since middle school. But I got a taste of that when you change things up and you try a different sport or cross training like swimming. I was just like literally almost drowning in the YMCA pool. And it gives me a good appreciation for people that are starting running from nothing, like, and they've lived their life for 20, 30, 40 years. Some people pick it up in their 50s, you know, like that's a whole different process than just kind of like always being on the team. But even our first memories, I remember not wanting to do the races in middle school. Like
you didn't finish your first.
I didn't finish my
race,
first 5K
right?
in high school.
Yeah.
I remember counting the races so I could be like done with the season. Like I was not about, it did not feel good. It felt like an uphill climb for sure. And then it kind of clicked a year later.
I was going to say I was the little girl that pushed through even when I felt so horrible and was like throwing up mid-race, but I'm like, I will not stop.
Yep.
So
I know. So after that first half marathon, that was a half marathon? Mm-hmm. So you just dove into the half marathon.
Yes.
Like, killer. That's amazing. So after that, what have you kind of done since then? That was a handful of years ago.
Yeah. Since then, I've done, several more halves. I could not count them, I don't think.
Is that like your favorite event?
No, my favorite is the full.
Okay.
So I've done 6 fulls since that time.
But more half marathons?
Probably.
Yeah.
But you know, I might just be counting like 13-mile long runs.
Yeah.
So half marathon races, I've probably done the same amount, maybe 5 or 6.
Yep. Cool. And which ones have you done, like around town, or have you just always gone to Disney?
I couldn't afford that. No, I've done Eau Claire several times, both the half and the full. Twin Cities full I've done a couple times. I did go back to Disney and do the Dopey Challenge, and then I just did Grandma's full.
Oh, kill it. So this was your first Grandma's?
This was my first Grandma's.
Gotcha. I keep messing that up because I know you've been at Eau Claire a handful of times, and you did the full a handful of times, but this year you did the half.
Yes.
All right. So this is a really common buildup that a lot of people in the area do in the spring. Eau Claire half, and then it would be 6 or 7 weeks later, Grandma's full.
Yeah.
So how did Eau Claire feel for you? Was it just like a training run, or where were you in your buildup in this year? How did that end up for you?
It lined up perfectly. Like I was supposed to do 13 miles that day, and so I was like, glorious. This is wonderful. I don't have to adjust my training at all.
Well,
and
you stopped 0.1 before the finish line.
I did, yeah. And I just like walked off the course. No.
This is not in my training plan.
That's too much. But it was a really good run. It was just a training run. I didn't approach it with any specific goals other than to just enjoy it. And the weather was nice. Like you said, it was misty and cold, which is great for running, not so great for spectating, but I was all about it.
And you did the 5 and 10K the prior day.
That's true. Yeah.
So she's done the Dopey Challenge, which describe the Dopey Challenge, actually. That's 3 races as well, right?
4 races.
Okay.
You do the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, and then the full marathon in 4 consecutive days.
All right. You don't have to show off about it, Alex.
Well, you asked.
So racing on multiple days was kind of a part of the plan, part of your training plan. And then you recovered and got back into full-blown marathon training.
Yep.
Got you. So one thing that sticks out to me about Alex is like a lot of people around the store and our employees and stuff, they ran Eau Claire Marathon, some kind of an event, 10K or the full or the half or whatever. And we're all kind of talking about it afterwards. And someone's like, oh yeah, I thought I'd run 2 minutes faster. I thought I'd run 5 minutes slower. Like someone PR'd, someone didn't PR. And we're like, Alex, how did you feel about it? And she's like, I don't even know what time I ran. And we're like, well, this is the time you ran. Like, here's the results. And like, is that good for you? Like, what's your PR? And she's like, I don't know my PR. We're like, okay, tell us more. How do you approach running events? Because you like the events.
Yeah.
But it seems to me you don't care about the time.
Well, I mean, I am human, so like there is a point of being glad when I recognize growth, but I do make a point to not focus on it because I think success in running for me is more longevity and enjoying it. And if I make running into a pass or fail thing, I will stop And so I think, time is great. I love when people have time goals and meet them and achieve them, but I tend to approach it more with other goals. Like, hey, did I approach this training season with more joy than usual? Did I use running to process anxiety more? Did I use running to connect with more people this season? Like, I think those are also very valid goals to have in your running.
Yep. They don't show up on the result sheet. They're a little bit less tangible.
Yes.
Like, time is a number.
Yep.
But like, time with, training time with friends, or like you can't quantify some of the things that you just said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So take us from half marathon to marathon. How did your training go this year?
It was great. Yeah, it was really good. I implemented some different workouts than I normally would do. Normally I just am like, let me get the miles done. But I had a really fun time just playing around with training, trying new things. I felt really strong, and it just, like, Grandma's Marathon itself was just an absolute celebration of like, wow, a year ago I couldn't even run. Like, I couldn't even drive. Like, I was in such a hard place mentally, and so just seeing what the Lord has done in that time frame it's just been a huge celebration with a lot of Thanksgiving.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that. So Alex has been with our crew here on the payroll, like, officially since September timeframe, September, October. And so haven't even come up on a year, for both of our Alexes. We call them Alexi. We don't know what the plural of Alex is.
I don't.
Oh yeah. We have a lot of nicknames around here, but then Alicia just calls them Alex.
No, I say Wend or wrong.
Yeah, Alex Wend.
For a while we were calling Alex wrong.
Dawson.
Yes, inside joke.
I think the really poignant one was when you were just like, Alex, and then not you.
Yeah.
I usually just say you, and I point.
Yeah.
You. I have an email that regards you over there.
We're all... No, just kidding. I was going to say we're all Als, but that's not you.
We're both
I'm Ad.
A.
Yep. Cool. Well, I really appreciate how many roles that Alex Wendler has stepped into. She's maintained marathon training. Before we get off of marathon training, though, I just have to say one more thing, because it cracks me up in a good way. I can't believe it. We were talking about Grandma's Marathon yesterday, and we're talking about how hard it is to maintain a pace for the marathon. Usually people kind of positive split. Like, they might run a little slower in the second half. They might run about even, which is fantastic for a marathon. And I was looking at Alex's splits, which she doesn't even look at. And she's like totally negative splitting this, crazy good competitive marathon. And she passed, between 13 and 20 miles, she passed 400 people.
No way. Are you serious?
I didn't count them.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Like,
I didn't know this.
The results, because they have the timing mats. And so you can see how many you passed and how many passed you. And like, Alex doesn't care about this at all. I'm just like geeking out with Runner Nerd.
That's incredible.
Stats. And she finished like her last 6. She came in and everyone's like, oh, the first half of the marathon is the first 20, and then the last 6 suck. Like, I can't stand the last 6. I don't even know if I'll be alive. And Alex is like, I love the last 6. So how did your actual day go? Walk us through a little bit, as much as you can remember.
It was good. Yeah, this was my first time like driving to a destination race and like just navigating the whole thing alone. I usually have a buddy, and so that part was a little overwhelming, but like even the shuttle ride over, I got to connect with a stranger who we had an awesome conversation, and it was so good to connect and encourage each other. Rongstad was at the start line and told me about his sweet women's tights he was wearing that were $10 at the expo.
Hold on. Were they, because you ran in shorts, yeah? So those were like
his pre-race.
Those are the pre-race.
I totally didn't pack warm-ups.
Okay.
So the expo was like, all right, I gotta get stuff.
Yeah, and the marathon start line, there's a lot of people that wear like cheap gloves or long sleeve shirts that they know they're never going to get back.
Yeah,
they're going to throw them off.
I saw many pajamas.
Yes. Okay, so pajamas and women's tights are the new vibe.
But Rongstad will keep those. I know he will.
Yeah, I know.
It was so good. It was so grounding. Like, I had been in such an elevated, like, anxious place, and Rongstad is just like, look at my women's tights. And I was like, okay, everything's fine. Like, everything's good, and I'm going to run. And then the run itself was great. The course is beautiful. I loved the views. I liked that it was a good mix of like the run itself is just focused on enjoying the run, enjoying nature, enjoying the running community. There isn't a ton of like spectacle about it because honestly, Lake Superior doesn't need extra spectacle. It's beautiful on its own, but then, after race, there is a little bit of the spectacle with the rock, the bayfront and stuff. So it was just a beautiful day. The run was really strong. I do appreciate mile 20 through 26 mainly because I hate the teens. Yeah. And I'm like, I've already run 17 miles and I still have like 9 to go. But once I hit 20, it's like, boom, let's get this done.
You like being in the 20s.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be done.
Because I'm going to be done soon.
Okay. I can resonate with that more.
And then I like hold back my pace because like single digit mile Alex doesn't get to make long-term pace plans.
Yep.
So then once I hit 20, that Alex can do whatever the heck she wants.
Yeah. Yeah, so you kind of hold back until 20, at least 20.
Well, at least double digits, and then I slowly move up, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, it sounds like it was pretty successful.
Yeah.
Do you know your marathon PR?
She doesn't.
I actually do.
Oh, okay. You don't have to share it if you don't want. I just didn't know if we'd have another aha moment.
No, I feel like I should have better equipped myself for this, but no, this race was my PR.
Oh.
It was. Fantastic. Awesome. So we're coming off of a big week here. And what have you done since then? I guess it's a couple days removed. We got an extra recovery day with the holiday weekend, but are you feeling good walking around?
Yeah, I feel fantastic. Honestly, within 48 hours, that soreness was gone, which is weird. I usually am like hurting for a while, but it's been good. I still plan on taking the week off because I have returned to running too soon after a race and led to injury. So I want to take a week off and then do a week of maybe active recovery, and then we'll enter back into training. So
killer. So besides actual running, which Alex does a lot of, and the events that you're kind of doing for your personal life, Blue Ox is your full-time job. Mm-hmm. Like you've been part of the team here since the last fall, and she wears a lot of hats around here, kind of like everyone does, but she's one of our floor managers. She's helpful out on the floor. You see her quite a bit in the store, but then she also helps in the office, super diligent, really good attention to detail where she helps me with invoices. She helps with things that people don't even know have to happen, things that I don't know have to happen. They just get done. And then we're starting our coaching arm of the business as well. So Alex is going to start and has already started coaching some folks with training plans and things like that. What has been one of your favorite parts of not just working at Blue Ox Running, but being part of the Eau Claire community here?
Honestly, the community itself, it just feels like a small town. There are so many moments, even just in the store here, when I'm like, oh, I know you. We were in the 6th grade together. Yeah. Or, oh, I know you. And it's just so fun to make those connections. And I love being here at Blue Ox Running. You guys have done such a beautiful job of making staff feel like family. And I love coming to work. It's an awesome culture here. I look forward to it. And I always have a little bit of fun. So,
what did you come from before this?
I am a registered nurse, so I came from a good old job at a clinic. So big giant career change.
Yes, which works really nicely with fitting people in her background and the medical community is super helpful.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always picking Alex's brain on medical things and because we do kind of overlap with our fitting process when it comes to a gait analysis. We're obviously not doctors here. We do have to hand off a lot of injury questions that are a lot more specific to that person's condition and diagnosis to medical professionals that will take a deeper look on that. But we kind of serve as a little bit of a mediator with people's onset, issues that they come in, and shoes aren't everything. They aren't the root cause of all problems, and they aren't the root solution of all problems, but it does definitely help to be in the right footwear. And so Alex has some of that background where she can not triage all these patients in here, but she has a huge...
She does to me.
she does for us, actually, with all of our issues.
My toenail hurts, and she's like, take off your sock and let me... And I'm like, really? And she's like, yes.
I have a lot of nutrition questions that I've asked our staff and Alex. Anyway, they help us more than they probably know. But a big part of the job and a big part of what we want to do here at Blue Ox Running is essentially help the general public with their problems. We're problem solvers. And so being a registered nurse, that is the the crux of that job as well. So what have you kind of like, what do you feel like you've kind of taken from your career change? Because career changes are hard. We've been through a couple ourselves. But what do you feel like has been constant as you come into a different industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the beautiful thing about being a nurse, and I'm sure all nurses would agree, is that the skills that you get are so translatable to pretty much any field, like critical thinking, problem solving, just plain people skills, right. Assessment, like all of those things are needed in so many areas whenever you're working with humans. So that has continued to be the same. Attention to detail is the same when it comes to office things. Yep. Just because I'm not charting about a patient doesn't mean I'm not going to work with excellence in putting in an invoice. So very different things, but I think the skills stay relatively the same.
She has multiple colors of highlighters that she uses with all the office work, and it makes my brain better. It is so good to see attention to detail around here, because a lot of times we are flying around doing 100 things at once, and everyone kind of having their own spot has been really helpful this last year. This is the first summer, speaking of summer, that we've had more staff and more regular full-time staff.
Both managers have been real gifts to our personal life and business life.
Big time, big time. We highly suggest, if you're out there in the business world, to hire 2 Alexes at the same time.
The plan was to hire one.
Yep, we had an opening for one, and we did hire one name. We hired one. We had an opening for one name. It was a package deal at that point. So all that to say, we're super excited that you're here, and we haven't even talked about everything that she really does. We're ramping up coaching. You just met with your first client a couple days ago. What excites you about coaching?
I love encouraging people in their running journey, and also just in all of life. Like, I would be a tiny little professional cheerleader if I could. So I think
you don't have to be tiny. You could just be.
Well, because I'm not going to real cheerlead. I'm just going to be like, wee, like. So I think it's going to be so much fun. Honestly, like we had mentioned before, running at the start is really hard.
Yeah.
And it can be so discouraging when every single run feels so painful. And I have walked through that, and I reached the point of getting to a place of more confidence and enjoyment in running. Yeah. And I really want to help people get to that point. And so I think just having a buddy, like someone to bounce questions off of, someone who can help navigate training and fueling and hydration and all of that can be so helpful. Thankfully, I had people in my life who came alongside me when I started running, and I'm really excited to offer that to others.
Yep.
I think for coaching too, it's even just the accountability aspect of like, okay, I have someone checking in with me, because there's days I don't want to run, especially if it hurt crazy every day, that I'm like, that you can come along someone like that.
Well, and a third person perspective can go a long way. Of, there is a balance in training between grace and discipline, and just being that third person to kind of navigate that with someone is great.
Yeah, I felt like when I think of like coaching and trying to like get the best out of my running, I often think about just the running part. And what I end up seeing a lot of times when I have better accountability, even if it's with like a physical therapist that I'm seeing or someone else, we actually end up talking a lot more about like the non-running parts and everything else that's touching and affecting the running. But it's how is your life different than even 5 years ago? Like you might be you're not a totally different person, but you might lead a totally different life.
Yeah.
And having a 12-year-old is different than having a 0-year-old. Is that a word? An infant, a baby. Alicia, that's what I meant to say. We've seen like totally different life changes affect, what injuries are creeping in and how good your sleep is, and having someone look at the big picture is helpful, because a lot of times it just becomes this training plan. How many miles am I doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays? And then when is my recovery day? How many miles am I doing for my long run? And honestly, that's really important too. And we can help with that. But when you look at the big picture, then you start to solve problems that are there and avoid problems that might have come up elsewhere. And on that note, let's get to the speed round. We are going to ask a handful of questions in a very short amount of time. Alicia's going to go first. I'm putting you on the spot because I don't have one in my mind. Are we going to ask this way? Like you ask Alex, Alex asks me, and I ask you. And we'll do 2 rounds of that.
Okay.
Speed round.
Oh, so this is good. I had a backup question last time. So
yes. So the first thing that comes to your mind, these answers, and this is instructions for me. We can't be long-winded, Alicia. I know you like to overtalk.
Do you have any pets?
I have 2 dogs.
Oh, that was a softball.
And also now I'm going to break the talking for a long time rule.
Yes, I know. That's why we didn't talk about our dogs.
Yes, Moose and Minnie are my dogs. Moose is 4 years old. He is fantastic. He's a certified therapy dog, so he's got a career. He's just like living his best life. Minnie is 4 months old and slowly learning to use her powers for good instead of evil. So we're getting there.
Slowly. What does that mean?
It means that it's like one day at a time. Like at this point, she's mainly just destroying all the things.
Including Moose's self-confidence in his new career?
Primarily, yes. Like that poor dog takes the brunt of all her teething and life and stuff.
We hear we talk about our kids a lot and people get to know our family, but we know a lot about Moose and Minnie.
I don't have kids, so like that is what I have to offer.
And there seems to be just as much drama and parenting as like what we've experienced with humans.
I probably make it too dramatic.
No, we love it. We love it.
We love it. All right, good. Okay. Moose and Minnie, part of the Blue Ox crew here.
Woo. If this is the one I said last time,
yes.
If you had to run a marathon with a celebrity, who would you pick?
Oh yeah, I forget my answer too.
Oh my goodness!
I always just think of Tom Hanks. I always just think of Tom Hanks as celebrity, like my celebrity guy. I want to pick his brain.
You said the guy from.
Well, hold on. Let me try to remember. But it wouldn't be Tom Hanks. That'd be just celebrity to run a marathon with. Bear Grylls. What did I say?
You said the guy from Wallflowers.
Oh yeah. Guy from Wallflowers.
He's still
Jacob Dylan.
The same.
But
I think it's nice to have options.
Did I say that? To run it with him?
I don't know. Do you guys remember?
I'm pretty sure the first thing you said was Alex Wrongstad.
That's right. That's right. I would.
Oh, yeah, you
and
did
I
say
will
that.
One day. That's a dream I'm going to make come true. So there you go. Jacob Dylan, Alex Wrongstad, Bear Grylls, and Tom Hanks. That's my answer.
I'm like, do you even know who Bear Grylls is?
Yeah. He's the survival guy. I'd want to anyway. There's something about beating Bear Grylls at something that would be awesome. Just like try to outsprint him at the end. My question for you.
Adam talking a lot.
My question for you is, how did you get that cute hat? That's like my favorite thing that you wear in the summer. Okay, my real question is, what is your favorite pair of shoes? I ask this every podcast. What's your favorite pair of shoes right now that you're running in? Because I think you changed.
I know, I do change a lot. I am really into the Brooks Launch GTS, which I usually wear more cushion.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, which I am running longer runs, I've been liking that shoe. It's almost dead.
But you're doing a higher cushion for your long runs.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So that's just one that you're kind of trying out on some medium runs. Mm-hmm. We don't promote just like
barefoot,
just changing everything for every run. But
no,
that's something that you brought into your rotation. Mm-hmm. Killer. What do you like about it? What's the one thing that you like about it?
I think I have been like transitioning to like heavier, higher cushion shoes. So I like that it's a little lighter.
Cool. Very good. Let's do one more round. You got another question?
Yes. While running, what's your favorite piece of apparel, or like it could be an accessory that you like?
Can't go without?
Yes. My favorite accessory would be the Hoo Rag because I cannot stand to have hair in my face when I run. So that is something I do not go without.
Good answer.
Very good. Good for a lot of people think Hoo Rags are just for the winter, for like keeping their neck warm. But I wear mine in the summer. How do you wear yours in the summer? Like as a
headband?
As a headband? Mm-hmm. Killer.
That's what headbands look like, apparently. So.
Team Hoo Rags. Cool.
My turn.
Yes.
What is your favorite vegetable?
Oh, broccoli.
Wow, that was really fast.
That's all I can think of. I literally only think like broccoli and carrots are vegetables, but I know there's a lot more. But I'm just kind of like I don't know. I just, Alicia knows this about me. I've been trying to like simplify my nutrition and just be like, anyway, TMI. Too long of an answer. Broccoli. Broccoli's my answer.
Great.
One word. Cool. My question to you, Alicia, is when are you going to wear those cat shorts next?
I just wore them the other day out running. A training run.
I mean, for a race. Didn't you wear them did you wear them at Whistle Stop?
No. Do you really want? They're a little breezy for me.
Breezy.
I mean, they are split, which I love, and I'll wear them. But I just don't want everyone
wear 'em around the house.
Seeing all of.
Yeah, I got you. So, what is your shorts plan for your marathon?
Yeah, I am obsessed with the Wazelle tool belt. They have like a belt built into them, so I can get all the gels. And if I need to be reliable on myself only. I love the Chaser short from Brooks.
We didn't even plan this to talk about apparel.
Mm-hmm. I'm a huge Wazelle short fan.
Yeah, but the only reason I say that is because we have big plans with Blue Ox to not change all of our apparel, but we're bringing in some really cool stuff. We're bringing in some different brands, and we are positioning ourselves to have a fantastic 5-year birthday, which isn't coming up too soon, but it's going to be October, and summer flies, man. So once summer's over, we're going to be in full-blown birthday mode, and we have a lot of surprises and kind of things in the store that are going to change around for the better. So stay tuned to the social media, stay tuned to the podcast, stay tuned to the email, stay tuned to everything that you can get your hands on to get a hold of us, including our app. blueoxrunning.com/app gets you to a place where you can download our app. And with that, I think we'll close her on out. Anything else you wanted to share, Alex Wend?
Oh, no, I'm good.
You're good. Anything else, Alicia? Nope. All right. I'm getting the no vibes. We're going to close it on out with the chant. 1, 2, 3. Fast or slow. Let's go.
Fast.
Let's go!